Michael Marks. He is the man behind his company's steady acquisition of factories around the world. He is a businessman from Silicon Valley in the United States. Marks oversees a network of more than 100 factories in 29 countries. Information on all the factories in a network spanning Asia, America, and Europe is sent to the laptop he is never without.
Inventory's a little higher than I would like to see. Collections are very good. Cash flow seems to be pretty good. So overall, I'd say it's about what I'd expect.
A state of fierce competition is unfolding in the global market among makers of consumer electronics. Fighting for survival, these companies are channeling capital into research and development and aftermarket services and ridding themselves of unprofitable facilities one after another. On the receiving end is Marks, who picks up available facilities and single-handedly takes on manufacturing operations.
Customers are increasingly allowing us to do this part of their business because it's not adding value to them. We're better at it. We drive a lot of efficiency, and so low margins still allows us to make a very good profit.
The name of Marks' company never appears on the products its facilities turn out. It is the proverbial puppet master doing behind-the-scenes work for well-known actors on the consumer electronics stage.
We're a big supplier to Casio and to Xerox and to Hewlett-Packard and to Sony Ericsson, but they're the names that are important. We need them to be successful. We want their brand names out there selling the product. We're quite happy to be in the shadows and producing the product.
Marks has set his sights on a new target, Japan. In October 2002, Marks' company acquired a factory and its workers in Aichi Prefecture. An American was brought over to head up the factory, and production lines were completely revamped. In Japan, companies have traditionally built their own production facilities, but no longer. A big change is at hand even in this market. A new business has emerged, a business of acquiring factories and their workers all over the world. We will take an in-depth look at a manufacturing giant in the shadows. And this man, a man who has prompted a whirlwind transformation in manufacturing circles. America's Silicon Valley, the powerhouse that drives the electronics industry. This valley is home to the U.S. headquarters of Flextronics, a shadow company. Marks is the company's chief executive officer. Net sales reached $13.4 billion in 2002. In 10 years, net sales have skyrocketed about 15 times. Ash Bardwaj, Vice President of Strategic Accounts. Marks is constantly bombarded with news on companies wanting to sell off facilities.
Who we don't need and what all the restructuring is going to be and all that?
Right, exactly. And combined business plan, we're investigating with both of them. And Curatel guys might have some EMS business for us as well.
How big company are they?
I think they're about $150 million, $150 to $200 million.
Every day. Every day. Yeah, sure, lots. I mean, because for one thing, there's a lot of companies in trouble now, and so they would like to be acquired. And there's a couple we always get interested in, and those are the ones that generally turn into something.
Marx is in the EMS business. That's the acronym for Electronic Manufacturing Services. Companies will sell factories having a tough time turning a profit to concentrate human and capital resources into R&D and aftermarket service divisions. The people who work at the factory are part of the deal. An EMS provider buys such facilities and undertakes production on a contract basis. Here is a sampling of the products outsourced to Flextronics facilities: Dell servers, Motorola mobile phones, Microsoft game machines, Epson printers, Xerox copiers. On a global basis, Flextronics outputs more than 500,000 units a day. These products bear the brand names of the manufacturers that placed the orders. The Flextronics name is nowhere to be seen. And for this reason, the company can be referred to as a maker in the shadows. Flextronics operates more than 100 facilities around the globe. The company employs some 95,000 people worldwide. Flextronics divides production into two categories. Mass production is assigned to facilities in developing nations where labor is cheap, while high-tech production goes to facilities in developed nations where labor has greater expertise. The company attracts clients so well because it can handle orders anywhere in the world. Laval, a rural city 300 kilometers southwest from Paris. This city is home to a mobile phone facility acquired by Flextronics. It had been owned by Alcatel, France's well-known telecommunications equipment maker. It happened in 2001. The bubble that enveloped the telecommunications equipment market burst, and Alcatel, hurt by poor business results, was forced to restructure its operations. Flextronics retained all 830 employees below the position of plant manager.
The problem was, the employees were uneasy, to say the least. Their concern deepened further when the buyer was not French. But Alcatel had no choice but to sell the factory to Flextronics if the facility was to continue operating.
Alcatel, headquartered in Paris, offers the market a wide range of telecommunications-related equipment, including submarine cables, optical fiber, and communication satellites. The general shareholders meeting in April 2003, Serge Chiruk broached the management strategy of a factory-less company, saying that Alcatel's network of production facilities would be cut from more than 100 locations worldwide to just 12.
We will seek buyers for our factories wherever possible. We will streamline our workforce from 110,000 to 60,000. This was a truly difficult decision to make.
Alcatel had chosen the road of investment to apply a substantial part of its human and capital resources to research and development. The company has about 500 design engineers involved in product development. They have to bring new products to market every 3 months. The company also pursues research with an eye toward the mobile phone market of the future. And that's why R&D costs keep on climbing.
This is a mobile phone aimed at women. And depending on the lady's mood, she can wear this display bracelet or this camera bracelet. Let's try this on. The control panel is in the brim of the hat, and all the information is displayed here.
Every time a new product is developed, equipment at production facilities must be changed. This drives up costs. That's how Alcatel sees it, and why the company embraced the strategy of selling its facilities.
It is really no longer feasible for manufacturers to hang on to production facilities. Production should be left to EMS providers. They are the manufacturing specialists.
A new management format characterizes the Laval factory that Flextronics acquired from Alcatel. The biggest change from the Alcatel era is in cost-cutting systems. Parts and components comprise about 80% of manufacturing costs. The current goal is to reduce this to 70%. Here is a sample of a printed circuit board for mobile phones. The engineers are considering the possibility of switching to cheaper components without sacrificing quality. On this day, the object of interest is the transistor, a component that amplifies electric signals. The engineers head off to the newly established procurement division. In this room, we find Flextronics' proprietary global information database. Access to this database is restricted to authorized personnel only. Several million parts are supplied to factories throughout Flextronics' production network, and this database contains them all.
You know, about that transistor that you were looking for, I show a cheaper one of equal quality.
How much?
$0.0078.
That's 40%. No, 50% cheaper than the current unit cost, right?
The part is made by a German manufacturer, and it's close to half the price the company pays now. Electronic components acquired from countries around the world are arranged on shelves in the warehouse. Flextronics procures parts worth more than $10 billion annually for its facilities around the globe. This formidable buying power gives the company an edge in its negotiations with suppliers for lower purchase prices. Individual factories are not permitted to negotiate directly with parts makers. The Parts Procurement Division at Flextronics' U.S. headquarters supervises the people responsible for negotiations in each geographical region and provides guidance on procurement direction.
Pretty dynamic in different commodities. I mean, I've had some commodities that we negotiated every 2 weeks. Quite pressure for us too, but yes, pressure for suppliers. Yes.
This is a new pamphlet for the Laval factory in France. The factory had focused specifically on mobile phones for Alcatel, but management wants to attract orders from other companies, including those in the automotive, industrial equipment, aerospace, and military sectors, and cut mobile phone production to half the current level. This is a newly installed production line. It makes printed circuit boards for aircraft use. An EMS facility caters to multiple clients and tackles multiple products. So even if an economic downturn causes certain orders to slow, the facility's overall operating rate will not suffer. Information arrives monthly via the internet to the factory manager.
This is data on factory operations all over the world.
All Flextronics factories are rivals, competing with each other to post the best operating rates and highest profits. Mark's business philosophy is, results are everything.
For this factory, higher profits will continue to be the key to its survival. It is imperative that we diversify, expand our operations beyond the mobile phones of Alcatel so that we're not vulnerable to fluctuations caused by the changing seasons or slumps in certain markets.
Marx is forever jetting around the world to visit factories under the Flextronics umbrella. Today, he is heading for Mexico. he will be attending a meeting of sales managers for North and South America. About 3,000 companies worldwide are in the EMS business, but the industry is dominated by 5 huge companies. Flextronics is one of them. In 2002, Marx took the company to the top of the sales ladder for the first time.
Companies are starting to pay attention to this. They're also nervous about it. And, you know, as long as we're a world-class company, we'll be fine. It's a giant business, $900 billion or $700 billion. I mean, it doesn't matter the numbers. The numbers are big. It's one of the few really, really large businesses in the world, along with oil and automotive. I mean, you know, $800 billion markets you don't find them very often. That's the market we're in.
The Mexico factory produces computer servers. Marx has given orders for consistency in production, that lines at all factories throughout the Flextronics network follow the same procedures. This factory doesn't have a conveyor belt. A person working at one stage of production hands the item off to someone at the next stage. When this person receives the item, he or she first checks the work of the person at the previous stage. Then this person begins his or her own work. A person at one stage of production cannot move on to new work until the person at the next stage is ready. Each person checks each item by hand. The idea is to reduce the number of inferior products and avert the potential for wasted time and money. A visual representation of the steps at each production stage is posted at each position. These steps are shown in pictures, and the same format is used throughout the factory network. So if operations were to shift from Mexico to China, the language need only be substituted to facilitate a quick start to production at the new location.
And as the world has become so global, and you have to be able to produce in Brazil for the Brazil market, and it doesn't mean one good factory. It means lots of interchangeability, lots of factories in lots of places that are all doing the same things at the same times in the same way.
The smile curve, a graphical expression of profitability. It's the catchphrase in the electronics industry today. To reach the market, a product goes through a process, from product development to component production and manufacturing, and then to marketing and aftermarket services. Growth in the curve reveals how much value is added at each stage. In effect, it shows if profits are up. The categories with the highest added value are product development and aftermarket services. Manufacturing is the least profitable activity. When bar graph levels are connected in a line, a smile emerges, hence the name smile curve. Based on this concept, many OEMs sold their factories and concentrated human and capital resources into product development and aftermarket services. The man who came up with the original concept is Stan Shi, a prominent figure in Taiwan's business circles. Shi, who was on friendly terms with Microsoft chairman Bill Gates, founded Acer, a computer company of long standing in Taiwan. Currently, he acts as an economic advisor to Taiwan's president, Chen Shui-bian.
A breakdown of operations showed me that we had to strengthen R&D and aftermarket services. We cannot rely on production to generate a profit. Competition in the market is fierce and changing at a dizzying pace. It is extremely difficult for a manufacturer to undertake the entire production process from start to finish.
In the electronics industry, factory operations have been simplified with greater use of standardized components and advances in digitization. Fewer and fewer opportunities are presented for companies to utilize innovative ideas and polished, high-value added techniques. Factories, OEMs have distanced themselves from their profit-consuming facilities. and EMS providers undertake production on a contract basis and seek to turn a low-margin business into a money tree.
Marx has put Flextronics on top by picking up factories all over the world. The market he is now particularly interested in is Japan. Most Japanese manufacturers still have their own factories turn out products featuring state-of-the-art technologies, rather than outsourcing such operations to EMS providers. Marx expressed his intention to take Flextronics into Japan at an information meeting for shareholders.
Here's the Japanese market, biggest market in the world, $250 billion. $250 billion, 3% outsourced. Now you can argue about whether or not this market will open up. Well, it's opening up. Big opportunities in Japan. And it'll be slow, but I think steady, and I think it'll turn out to be pretty good.
A solid foothold in Japan came with Flextronics' October 2002 acquisition of Casio Computer Factory in Komaki, Aichi Prefecture. The factory's mainstay products are digital cameras. Marx thinks quite highly of the factory's miniaturization technology, which packs a lot of functions into a tiny board. Brett Bissell was flown over from the United States to take over as the new plant manager. This is the day the factory falls under the Flextronics umbrella. The 224 former Casio employees, all with high-level skills, were kept on the payroll under the same conditions as before.
Your mission here is that you must always expect that there will be surprises, both good and bad. You must expect to be challenged. You are now part of a new company and a new industry.
Kazuo Kaneko was plant manager during Casio's reign. His new role is to support Bissell.
You have mixed feelings right now. Your heart's filled with both expectations and concerns at the same time. It is an extremely nerve-wracking state of mind to be in, and I too want to find out exactly what is going on. But please realize also that we have gained a competitive edge we didn't have before. And this edge gives us a chance to take great strides forward, beginning from today.
Bissell is 36. Marx was impressed with Bissell's experience, including time as an engineer at Toshiba, and that's what prompted Marx to select Bissell for this job.
I have been visiting factories pretty extensively recently, and I enjoy talking to our people at the plant levels and actually telling you about them, and everyone seems to like it, so I'll continue to do it for a while.
Marx told Bissell to transform the old Casio factory into an EMS facility as quickly as possible.
His job is to bring, the American manager's job is to bring that facility into the same mold as the rest of our factories. And that could not be done by the Japanese manager. I mean, it could be, but it would take a very long time. And that is clearly his role.
3 engineers from the Brazil factory have been brought over to Japan. They will make the existing production line consistent with the format that Marx has established for Flextronics worldwide. The modification work, which is scheduled to take a month, has begun. The Brazilians were sent to Japan because they had earned high praise for restructuring guidance applied at a factory in Hungary. The layout of the old production line is scrapped and will be replaced by a new layout proposed by the Brazilians. They are now fine-tuning the details with the Japanese team.
Here you have just front, yes, and here the air.
This factory had used a conveyor belt to set the pace of production, and management had raised productivity by pushing employees to make as many products as possible during a given shift. It was a way to effectively utilize labor in Japan, where personnel costs are high. In February 2003, 4 months after the acquisition, the Brazilian engineers and the whole production division began modifying the lines. The Japanese employees follow directions from the Brazilians to change the work table arrangement. The original plan requires on-site adjustments as modification efforts unfold. The Japanese side had left part of the conveyor belt in place until today's modification. The employees still hope to use it to set the pace for production. But the Brazilian engineers argue that when the conveyor belt is in use, it isn't possible to stop production immediately if defective items are found, and this would lead to excessive costs. No exceptions are allowed to the rule on a common production format at all Flextronics factories, so the request of the Japanese employees is denied. In the end, the production line at this Japanese factory is made the same as all the other factories in Flextronics world. The line went into full-scale operation following the departure of the Brazilians for their homeland. Bissell encouraged preparations, including 2 weeks of training without the use of a conveyor belt to get employees accustomed to the new line. However, efficiency without the conveyor belt that had helped employees maintain a good pace was not as high as when the equipment had been used. Bissell wants production time per person to shrink.
So, roughly speaking, how long is it taking?
I'd say about 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Yes.
I think that's too long. Well, let's get it down to 9.97 seconds.
I agree. I think we can do that. Well, it's certainly possible.
This week? Okay, this week. Good. I'm counting on you.
Together. Separate.
After work, it's time for English. The language of the company is English.
Separate your scarves. Separate my scarves. Very good, thank you. Okay.
With increasing contact by phone and email between factories around the world, English has become an indispensable business skill.
L and R. Toshi, please.
Only a portion of the lesson fee is paid by the workers who participate.
Excellent. Well done. Look like spin. It looks like rain. It looks like spin. Good, okay. One more time, let's go. It looks like. It looks like. One more time. It looks like. It looks like spin. Okay. Rain.
Rain.
Range.
Range.
Well done.
I really need English because I exchange emails with other factories. But I mix up past and future and present, and the recipients don't understand the message. They email me back to ask what I'm trying to say.
June. It's been 4 months since the line modifications. Bissell has dramatically altered the internal layout of the factory.
So this is our new area. Look at all the space that we opened up. We opened up this space here using the DFT process, cleaning the whip out of the lines, cleaning the packaging out of the lines, making the process more efficient, training the workers, using less workers. Doing all this, we cleaned up this space, so we moved all the production down to the first floor.
The space that was opened up measures about 3,000 square meters. That's 15% of the entire site. Bissell wants the factory to secure orders for products other than digital cameras and use this space for a variety of lines to manufacture mobile phones, automotive equipment, and other consumer electronics. To secure new business clients, Bissell created a brand new marketing division. The people responsible for marketing are engineers who had previously worked on the production floor. It is by no means an easy task to win orders from manufacturers in Japan, where most have many factories of their own.
I am confident. My people are talking to a lot of potential clients, and I'm sure some of these companies will outsource to us. I can't say for certain what sort of products, but I'm sure that we can secure some additional clients.
Marx has great expectations for this factory in Japan. To date, 5 EMS providers have acquired 7 facilities from Sony, NEC, and other manufacturers.
All I view that as a market that is moving slowly, but I believe that the world markets are forcing the changes to take place. Our customers all around the world, we work with them very closely, and we do some of the manufacturing, they do some of the manufacturing, and that's perfectly fine. That's the way it should be. In general, the Japanese companies have not seen how much leverage or haven't seen the value for their companies in having a company like us that works all around the world.
With expanding networks encompassing the entire planet, the EMS realm is one of mammoth proportions. It is in a way a cutthroat industry with a small handful of the best and biggest jockeying for position. Flextronics dethroned the EMS king in 2002 by posting higher sales. That year, Selectron suffered losses of $3.4 billion as the collapse of the information technology bubble adversely impacted sales. In the latter half of the 1990s, Selectron began a meteoric rise, which paralleled the growing IT industry and expanded its worldwide network through the acquisition of one factory after another. But Selectron had focused its production activities on industrial use telecommunications and network equipment. So when the IT bubble burst, the company was immediately saddled with surplus facilities. Selectron's general shareholders meeting in 2003. To return to profitability, the company was forced to shift production from factories in developed nations to facilities in regions where costs were lower.
Some time ago, we were 60% of our manufacturing was actually done in high-cost countries. High cost being North America, Western Europe, primarily. Our goal was to turn that around and have 60% done in low cost.
Michael Cannon was officially welcomed at this annual meeting as the new Chief Executive Officer. Cannon began his career at IBM, but it was his business experience in Asia, including China, that got him the top position at Selectron.
I have been dealing in operations in low-cost geographies for well over 15 years, including People's Republic of China. So I think that my background maps over very well to the needs of Selectron.
Cannon immediately announced plans to restructure operations, particularly in developed nations, and to cut the workforce by 12,000. Selectron then moved to scale down or close factories in the United States and Europe, while accelerating its shift towards production in mainland China.
EMS providers are struggling for survival amid heightened competition to lower costs, and all eyes are converging on China. Flextronics already boasts the world's largest factory in Guangdong province. Flextronics was the first EMS company to pursue activities here 8 years ago and currently operates 17 factories in China. This early start helped put the company in the industry's top spot. The mainstay product of Flextronics factories in China is the mobile phone. Motorola and Sony Ericsson, as well as domestic manufacturers, outsource production to Flextronics. Flextronics employs 35,000 people in mainland China. In fact, 1/3 of all the company's employees work in China. China has become the world's biggest mobile phone market. The number of subscribers surpassed the 200 million mark in 2002. The market is poised for further growth, and close to 40 OEMs are vying for a dominant share. Members of the EMS industry are witnessing a rapid increase in the number of new participants, and competition has become so fierce that a comparison to the time when Marx put Flextronics into gear is right off the scale.
Always want things faster and cheaper. It's a lot of pressure, and I would say that for the last 5 years, we've been pushed very hard by not just our customers, but our competition, especially in the last year as there's been too much demand in the market.
Low-cost competition hinges on low prices, and the mobile phone market in China is reaching its limit. EMS companies are trying to make a profit on manufacturing, which is a marginally profitable activity to begin with, and price competition only makes a tough job even tougher. What could be done to alleviate this difficult situation? Marx had come up against an obstacle he'd never encountered before as CEO.
I'm just wondering what reporter is.
In 2001, Marx made a decision to carve out a new path for Flextronics to follow. His decision drastically changed a business that had up to that point focused on production. Marx implemented design services wherein Flextronics would develop generic mobile phones on its own for sale to manufacturers. Profits secured from OEM outsourcing alone were going to peak. But if OEMs accepted Flextronics generic products, the company would have itself a new kind of profit source. The plan presented advantages for OEMs too, because they could cut costs associated with developing products from scratch. This was how Marx saw it.
What our vision for the industry was, I would say that we were right about what the industry would look like in all regards. What we never thought would happen would be that we would be a full designer of products. And that is really what the ODM business is.
Design services needed design engineers with expertise in specific fields. Initially, only 4 people had the necessary skills. Development of mobile phones for the Chinese market started with this tiny team.
First, visual personality, and then, of course, the cost associated. The original phone model and sort of where we are today, it's softened a little bit already, but maybe we want to look at these edges right here and sort of soften these facets, and even in these corners to try to increase the radii.
Do you want to change the back of the phone? I mean, do you want to just change the front and keep the back for the next generation, or?
This is the first mobile phone Flextronics developed for the Chinese market. In the spot where the brand name goes is the word logo. The OEM just needs to put its name here. In May 2003, an OEM picked up the mobile phone and put it on the market. Marx had another reason for embarking on design services, and that reason was in Taiwan. A Taiwanese EMS provider was swiftly gaining share in mainland China and had become a formidable rival. Marx felt design services was a mighty weapon to stem the advance of this rival. This is Stephen Lee, chairman of the Arima Group, Taiwan's leading EMS provider. Lee is channeling Arima's energy into a state-of-the-art camera phone for mainland China. This new generic model was set for introduction in the autumn of 2003.
How many versions of this model will there be?
We're planning on 5 or 6 right now. We expect it to be a mainstay from the fourth quarter of this year through the first half of next year.
The aggregate annual mobile phone production by EMS providers in Taiwan has reached 40 million units. These companies are in hot pursuit of Flextronics and its 60 million unit level.
American EMS providers have enormous scale. They have production points all over the world, and that number simply overwhelms us. However, our skills in product development and design services are far superior to the Americans.
The design services of Taiwanese companies have already proved successful. Since the 1990s, the personal computers produced for OEMs in the United States have been vital exports supporting the Taiwanese economy. Even today, more than 60% of the world's laptop computers are made by Taiwanese companies. Many of these were developed by local EMS providers for their OEM clients. Taiwanese EMS providers, which did not walk the typical path of specialized manufacturing from the start, boast considerable expertise in R&D. Having garnered worldwide attention for their ability to develop personal computers, they turn their sights to a new product: mobile phones. To further reinforce Arima's design services, Lee opened up an R&D center in Nanjing on the mainland. Nanjing is home to more than 50 post-secondary schools, making it easy to secure a young and high-skilled workforce. Another incentive is labor costs that are just 1/10 what they are in Taiwan. July. As part of their training, Arima's new employees go through the drills of the People's Liberation Army. In 2003, just 27 of China's elite were selected from 1,000 applicants. This is a drill to promote corporate loyalty as a member of a Taiwanese company.
下一名，团队要相互理解。团队就是集体的智慧，集体的荣誉。团队要相互友爱。团队要心连着心。团队就是要让大家形成一个整体。好，团队需要关心和友爱。准备走。现在准备着。前面困难走走。欢迎勇往直前。前面困难走走。欢迎勇往直前。走。你放心，我们永远支持你。我来了。注意迎合。好。
As long as Taiwan and the Chinese mainland are connected, we're invincible. This is extremely advantageous for us. Competition may be fierce, but I believe we can survive.
Mark senses an impending crisis. He's heard that some of Flextronics' clients have begun using Taiwanese EMS providers.
Increasingly, they start to go off to other companies to buy designs and manufacturing, which was impacting our customer base. So we figured, obviously, this is a part of what our customers need. So we have to provide this service, or they're going to go to other companies to get it.
The company ventured into design services to weather extreme cost competition. What can the company do to match or beat the design capabilities of its Taiwanese rivals? Mark's idea is for a new acquisition. He wants to search the world for a mobile phone design company that will bring the edge Flextronics needs in original design manufacturing.
So I don't really know what the answer is. All I'm saying is it's just an issue that came to the fore that we really want to pay attention so that we don't get. But you should find out about this. But like we should have.
Where are all these people?
What's that?
Where?
Finland. Well, they have some people in Denmark, but mostly they're in Finland.
Marx is eyeing a design company in Northern Europe, Finland to be precise. The company has 760 employees. Focusing on the design of next-generation mobile phones, this company counts Sony Ericsson among its clients and has earned a solid reputation in the market.
We can save a lot of money here, I'm sure of it.
So I look at that as industrial design. So you need to find out about the industrial design. Just find out about it. Because, you know, if they have a good group, maybe just use that group and, you know, have them support cameras and all the other stuff, if they can.
Microcell has a really good antenna group as well.
Do they?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. In fact, if you look at a lot of the patents they've applied for, they're related to antenna, those types of technologies.
I think this is this is a home run if we win this thing. Due diligence here?
After 5 months of negotiations, a deal was signed in August to acquire the Finnish design company. The price? $80 million.
Microcell, we felt, was or is the premier independent designer of cell phones. And it fits very nicely with other projects we already have. The way we see the world is that the winners are the fast companies, the companies that can move quickly. You know, the idea of creating a group and having it mature over 3 or 4 years, that doesn't work in today's world anymore.
Developing designs from scratch, it requires a huge investment. It offers the potential for new profit, but also carries risks that the company had not faced before. Marx had taken a big gamble. He was taking Flextronics beyond the borders of an EMS provider in the shadows and closer to the definition of manufacturer. Marx also made a big decision. Flextronics would buy 180,000 square meters, a large tract of land, in Shanghai and build itself a huge factory there. Marx felt that Flextronics would be short in production capacity if it relied only on its typical practice of acquiring factories that were for sale. Construction would finish up in December, with mobile phone production to start soon after. But rival Taiwanese companies are also building massive facilities in and around Shanghai. Intense competition rages in the electronics industry. Marx expects that OEMs will increasingly turn to EMS providers for design and development to raise their own cost competitiveness. And who will be the champion in this game? The giant in the shadows continues to wage an aggressive fight.